Welcome back. I'm hoping that you got to learn about the basics of plant-based lifestyle and sleep hygiene and how both of those interact with diabetes in our previous session. And this session we're going to talk about how to traverse social scenarios when you're trying to eat plant-based, and how to connect with your physician in terms of being able to safely but effectively reduce your medications as you work on this journey of plant-based lifestyle. So it's no matter which disease you're trying to look at. In this scenario, we're talking about type 2 diabetes, but having the tips and skills to traverse to different social situations is very important, because we get caught up with that and we encounter that every day. And if we don't have a game plan, then that can really derail us from our goals. So without further ado, I'm going to quickly jump into that. So the very first thing, as you see there, is you're trying to eat more whole plant foods. WFPB is whole food plant based. And you're working through that. Try to keep your excitement to yourself. I'm not saying it in any way to dampen your excitement, but there's a reason. People are very, particular about what they think of food and what their concepts are. And if you start sharing more of these with others, while they may not be fully receptive to that idea, it can actually create more friction. It can, kind of push them away from you. So the goal is to first kind of work on your own journey, and as you're doing it, try not to talk about it. So don't put any, and definitely not make any comments on anybody else's food choices. That's the last thing you want to do. So make sure you don't, trap into that common, scenario which I've seen. So keep your journey to yourself. You'll reach a point where people will start noticing the benefits you're going through, and they'll ask you what you're doing differently. And that's the key point where you can share your story and tell them what you did and how it benefited you. But before you reach there, don't prematurely start sharing things when you're not asked about it. So if someone asks and is curious, feel free to share. You don't have to restrict yourself. But if someone is not asked, don't try to start sharing this, and not obviously make a comment on other people's food choices. So that's the first and foremost thing you want to make sure you don't trip on. Second thing is, anytime when you're eating out or going to a place, ask before, ask what options they have on the menu, so you know how to plan your meals. So you can either eat before you go, not completely, but at least you eat some food so that you're not overtly hungry when you go there. And so there you can pick on options that you may think would be still whole plant foods, and socialize, have a good time, and not necessarily feel like you're in a corner. So just a little bit of planning, knowing where you're going, and asking beforehand. If you're going to a restaurant, finding out what the menu options are before can really help you. And then let's say you end up in the restaurant and you haven't called them beforehand. No worries. All you need is a nice smile and a nice tone, and ask the server. And I have found it personally that you will get more suggestions from your servers, and many times they may be eating plant-based or some version of that journey, and they'll be more than happy to share their experience and insight into the menu, and you'll be able to eat different meals and have a good time. So keep an open mind, call before. If you haven't called before, just ask with a nice smile, and people will be more than happy to help you. Let's say you're going to a potluck or a friend's place, or a gathering of friends, family, whatever the situation may be. And rather than making people uncomfortable about your food choices, or making them bonkers thinking about what you would eat, offer to bring something whole food plant-based that you make at least one meal, or one dish or two dishes if you have the time. And so then two things happen. One, your host or whatever the gathering is, they get put at ease because they are not having distress about your food choices. And number two, you have options to eat if you don't get any other options from the potluck or whatever the place is, in terms of the food options. So it, again, and then the third thing that can happen is people may try what you bring and they may like it and they may actually be interested in eating more plant-based. So it can have multiple benefits, but all it starts off with just bringing at least one dish or maybe two dish along, and that way you have a backup and you're not feeling uncomfortable, and people who are around you are also feeling at ease and not stressing about either. So simple steps, but that can really make or break your whole social experience. And depending on the outcome of these can determine how sustainably you will be able to follow this. Because if you keep ending up in these traps and you end up in the wrong path, then you're not going to be able to eat plant-based on a sustainable basis. And that's not what we want. So we want to make sure we succeed. And for that, I think this is a great start. And while you're doing this, you also want to keep reinforcing on a daily, weekly basis why you're making this food changes in the first place. Dr. Bindra actually talks about this in one of her sessions, but I'm going to quickly make a point here is the stronger the why you have, the better it is for you to maintain it. So even in light of situations where it may not be the most suitable for you to eat plant-based, if you have a strong why, you will keep pushing through and keep finding ways, creative ways to go around whatever the blocks may be. And after you've done that, the key thing is to, like I said in my previous session, you are working on enjoying this journey. It's an adventure. It's not a stress. It's not, something that you hate absolutely every day. Because if that's the outcome you're getting, you're not doing it right. After you've done your part, you're trying to eat plant-based, and if you have to make a choice of different foods that were not necessarily the best, don't beat yourself up for it. You do it with a conscious choice. You didn't have the options, so you did the best you could. And if it was a meal that you were eating before, enjoy yourself. Have fun when you're eating it. Don't feel bad when you're eating something that's not whole food plant-based. But you're making a conscious choice, so you're not going to be doing that over and over again. There's a difference. If you eat something unconsciously, it becomes your habit, and then you're going to go the wrong path. But if you make a conscious choice in that given situation, and you eat something, and if you enjoy it, that's fine. But then next time you are not going to make the same things. You'll have a different, preparation, or you may try it differently. So don't beat yourself up if you have to make a choice different than eating plant foods. When you're on the road, again, it just requires a little bit of planning and prepping, but it can really help ease out all your stresses through the journey. The most easiest things to keep on hand is, fresh fruits, which you can, even if you're going to different places, you can go to a market and get some fruits, get it back to your hotel, to have that when you need. You can always get some cans of beans from a market and have that on hand when you want to eat something that, if you're not sure, you have that as a backup. There are also whole food plant-based frozen meal options nowadays, which, we've really come a long way. So you can have those in a freezer, as a backup. But again, it's enjoying the process, not stressing. So you do the best you can, but not beat yourself up. Going back to the scenario with, eating out at a restaurant, it is very, easy if you just have the right approach. So let's say you're going out at an Italian restaurant and you want to eat something whole food plant-based. It may not be 100% whole food plant-based, but it could be very close to that. So most restaurants now have whole wheat pasta instead of the refined, regular pasta. Many places also have lentil pastas now because they're becoming more and more available. So you can ask, and if that's the option, you can get that and have them do, plate with marinara sauce instead of doing the white sauce. So you get, more vegetables in that without the refined flour. And you can have them load up all the vegetables they have in the restaurant. So it could be a very filling meal. And I can tell you, every time I've done that, I actually, I'm quite full by the time I finish the plate. It's enough food. I'm not starving myself. And I'm not talking even about a salad. I'm just talking about the pasta dish. So you make it nutrient dense and fiber rich. Remember from my first session, we talked about that question you ask yourself is, how do you make this fiber rich and nutrient dense? So more vegetables, less refined things, more fiber, more nutrients. You go to a Mexican place, you can always get, stir fry vegetables. You can get a side of black beans. You can get a side of brown rice. You can get some pico, or you can get a little side of guacamole as a little, special flavor. So you can always be, creative. This is just, a couple examples, but it's very easy if you keep a different mindset that you want to make it work and keep remembering your why, then you will find options that you didn't think of it before. Not stressing. I'm going to repeat it over and over. It's about having fun with this journey, not stressing about this process. So if you're stressing, you're not doing it right, and the stress will raise your sugars, raise your cholesterol, your blood pressure. You don't need that. So take it as a fun journey. Sometimes we get it right, sometimes we don't get it right. So this is not about perfection, it's about progress. How do you, interact with your physician so that you can safely and effectively reduce your medications while you're going through these changes? The first thing is you want to keep a track of your blood glucose and your blood pressure readings. And the more data you have, the better it is, because your physician can look at that log and can make a sense, okay, this is the trend, your sugars and blood pressures are going down. We need to start cutting back on these medications. If you just come up to your physician and say, oh, I'm eating plant-based, or I'm trying this and I'm seeing improvements, they're going to be less likely to jump on board and say, okay, let's go ahead and reduce medications. But if you have that log of your sugars and blood pressure and you're seeing that trend and they can see that too, they're going to be more comfortable and be jump on board to be able to reduce your medications. And then you'll have lab work done, so your labs will also reflect the changes you're doing. So having this is a good start. The second thing to keep in mind, especially for type 2 diabetes, is there's a lab called hemoglobin A1C. That's the 3-month average blood sugar that is, gives you an idea of where your level of control is. But there's also another lab called fructosamine. Fructose, Fructosamine, fructosamine. That lab, which is again a blood test. So this is important because A1C looks at a 3-month average, whereas fructosamine looks at a 4 to 6 week average of your sugars. So if you have started making changes, but it is not a full 3 months, you want to call ahead with your physician's office and ask them to add a fructosamine lab along with your regular A1C and other labs. So when they have the results and you're talking, with your physician in the visit, you will typically see that your A1C may not have improved that fast because it looks at 3 months, whereas fructosamine looks at only 4 to 6 weeks of changes. So if you have just started making changes in a few weeks, the fructosamine will give your physician a better idea of your sugar level versus the A1C. Now your A1C will change the next time you get it done because it will be a few months of changes by the time you get it done next time. But this is an important point to keep in mind. If you are just started off and you're having a visit come up, then having the fructosamine level checked can help your physician and you in making the determination. And another thing to keep in mind, And this is in a very, constructive manner. I'm a physician too, but I always look at myself is what would I do if I was sitting in the patient's chair? So that's my guiding light. But every person has their own mindset and the way they have been, trained. So don't make it a sling match between you and your physician. This is about your health, and you want to make sure your physician is your team member and supporting you in this, and not you're not exchanging heated exchanges and taking it the wrong way. So seek their help. Tell them you're making these changes and you want their help to be able to guide you through in terms of reducing medications as you see the benefits. So make it a team effort, not a sling match. There are other things that you want to keep in mind, which you want to reach out to your physician right away if that happens. And that's if your sugars, you start 100% or 90% going whole food plant-based, you will find that your sugars can start coming down very fast. It doesn't take too long. It can happen in a few days, maybe a week. And if your sugars are going below 90, or your, your blood pressure is starting to go down, then that's time to reach out to your physician's office right away. You don't want to wait till your next visit, because they may have to cut back on your medications or tell you to make some adjustments so that you're not having to just keep getting those low blood pressure, low blood sugar spells while you're still trying to make these changes. Because if you have a fall and you hit your head, we don't need that. We want to make it as safe as possible while you're making these changes. So keep in mind to track your sugars, because if you track it, then you will know it. Track your blood pressure as well. So if you hit any of these warning points, you reach out to your physician sooner. And lastly, if you've done everything you can, you kept the log, and if you reaching out, but you're finding a lot of negative energy and you're finding a resistance from your physician, then that may be time to seek out a different lifestyle focused physician who is open to work with you. So again, the idea is to do this in the most safest possible manner. If it means, and if you're already having an idea that your physician may not be supportive of this, then maybe before you start making these changes, go establish with a different physician who can be on board with you in this. And so that way you are doing it in a safe manner. So we want to do it in a fun way, but in a safe way at the same time. And that pretty much sums up for the session. Like I said, you look at your why, so that keeps you going. Just being a little creative, not taking it as a stressful journey, but looking at it as what's possible and what options. Eating before you go someplace if you're not sure. Keeping this transformation initially to yourself and not starting to say too much, so that let people ask you and you share your thoughts. So that way you keep the social connections and not create any animosity in that. And like here, tracking your progresses, tracking your blood sugar and blood pressure, and connecting with your physician to make sure they're part of the team, and you do it in the most safest manner possible. And like the previous session, we'll have homework questions as well, again, to kind of go through the core concepts that will be sent to you separately. This is just a glimpse of what the homework questions are. You don't have to scramble to write it down. I hope that this sessions added a lot to your knowledge base and came with actionable steps that you can work on that were easy to understand and easy to follow. And we are very open to any feedback. We want you to give us feedback so we can keep improving in the courses and on to fun journeys and in future interactions when we have the live question answer session. So best of luck again, and the fun begins. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Soham, for enlightening us on the important aspects of demystifying whole food plant-based journey and safe medication management. We hope our viewers have enjoyed and embraced this segment as much as we have enjoyed presenting it to you all. Now let's move on to the next segment of the course where Timri will discuss on dietary practices. We wish all the participants good luck and encourage you to watch all the videos for a comprehensive understanding of all the topics and engaging in the activities provided in the course. Happy viewing!